Tron's back, baby! And we're going to watch the official trailer for Tron Ares, and immediately following the trailer, we're going to watch a video about Tron Legacy, because we need to know its legacy so that we can understand why we should be even more excited for Tron Ares. And if you are unexcited... then you should definitely check out the Legacy video, and we'll discuss it, because that is going to inform you as to why you should be maybe a little more interested, a little, slightly more intrigued by the premise of experiencing Tron and becoming a fan, because Tron's amazing, and we're about to see why. Here we go.
Motorcyclist exceeding speeds of 120 miles per hour. Last seen heading northbound.
Unit 12, acknowledging dispatch. Already in pursuit.
I'm looking for something. Something I do not understand. Ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Because there's no going back.
Woo! Yes!
What? What is it?
Tron Legacy is amazing. I feel like I need to talk about this movie because there's a lot to say about it. For one, Tron Legacy is kind of unusual, because despite the fact that it came out in 2010, which wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme of things, I think this movie was a little ahead of its time, and movie critics at the time didn't quite get it. Now, yes, the movie isn't perfect, it has its issues, and we're gonna talk about them. But to this day, I struggle to understand why critics were so brutally harsh with it. A lot of them just shrugged it off or flat out bashed it, and very few of them ever acknowledge how groundbreaking it was in terms of visual effects, even for 2010. The movie literally paved the way for the de-aging technology to become what it is today. Yeah, X-Men did it first, but not to the extent of Tron. It doesn't look perfect, but movies like The Irishman or the de-aging they did in the MCU or in Star Wars would not exist if it wasn't for Tron making an attempt of that scale before. Critics treated Tron like it was garbage, but just like movies in the vein of Fight Club, Dredd, or Blade Runner, the movie became a bit of a cult classic over time. It's not a flawless masterpiece or anything, but it's a really unique concept that has a lot of merit and extremely solid world building, and goddamn, I just love this movie.
You have no idea.
Weirdly enough, it seems like a lot of people are not aware that Tron Legacy is actually a sequel. And don't worry, you won't be lost because of it. Tron Legacy is designed to be watched and understood without having seen the first movie. It's kind of a reboot in a sense, but it takes place after the original Tron, which came out in 1982, and also was a groundbreaking movie when it came to visual effects of the time. I have a very deep appreciation for Tron Legacy as a movie, and I feel like it's only now, over 10 years later, that people are starting to realize this film is actually really fucking cool. So let's take a look at it. Tron Legacy is the story of Sam Flynn, a 27-year-old delinquent who rides motorcycles and does crazy stunts and shit. Sam is the son of Kevin Flynn, the former CEO of a powerful tech company called Encom, which in this movie is made to look like a bootleg version of Apple. They make a lot of meta jokes about it, it's really funny. Now, Sam's father mysteriously went missing in 1989 when he was on the verge of a huge discovery that was going to change the world and completely redefine define the human condition. But 21 years later, a former colleague of Kevin receives a mysterious message from an abandoned arcade they used to own. So Sam goes to the arcade to investigate the origin of the message, and when there, he is accidentally transported into the grid, a digital world inside of computers in which programs are actual living beings. Sam then realizes his father created an entire world, but something is off there. He soon learns that the grid is now under the rule of Clue, an evil program created in the image of his father, who has for intention to lead an entire army of programs outside of the grid to conquer the real world. I love the concept of Tron Legacy. It is such a weird idea, and the fact that it was executed this way is super impressive. It's really out there, but also really self-aware.
Yeah, it
and
was
the
very
writers
well
have
done.
fun with certain elements of the mythos, like in this one scene where Sam is given a tool to fight, and his first instinct is to hold it like a lightsaber. I just love the vibe of this movie. I don't know. It's cozy. Now, let's get the obvious out of the way. The visuals in Tron Legacy are unbelievable. I can't tell you how hard my jaw dropped when the first teaser of the movie came out back in 2009. It blew my mind. I didn't really know what Tron was at the time, but the teaser was so effective that I immediately became a fan.
Just listen to that.
It's just a game!
Not anymore.
The look and atmosphere of the grid are just so beautiful. Everything looks like it's made of glass and everything is lit by neon lights. The sky is a perpetual storm that glitches. It just looks so fucking cool. Like, I'm legitimately bummed out that the grid doesn't exist, because I would go there in a heartbeat and I would give anything to ride one of these light cycles. These things are incredible. Also, can we talk about the Daft Punk soundtrack for a minute? Rest in peace, Daft Punk. I was hoping for another album. This thing is just out of this world. A lot of people praise Stranger Things for bringing back synthwave, but I'm sorry, Tron did it first, and Daft Punk put a twist on the genre that is so effective that it became its own genre. Taking 80s synthwave but adding a modern electro sci-fi element to it makes this soundtrack so unique and revolutionary. It's just beyond anything I could have ever imagined. There isn't a single scene in this movie that isn't spectacularly elevated by the soundtrack. I also like that Daft Punk have a cameo in the movie where they're performing in a nightclub, and then there's a fight and they change the music depending on how the fight is going. The humor of the movie is super
Such a
meta,
good
and I'm a
scene.
diehard Daft Punk fanatic, so when I saw them pop up on screen in the movie theater back in 2010, I almost screamed out loud. But I said it earlier in this video, the movie does have flaws, and despite all the praise I can give it, it's only fair to acknowledge them too. Now, the first thing about Tron Legacy that kinda irks me is the fact that this movie is a little too heavy on exposition. Don't get me wrong, I understand why it's made that way, because the filmmakers knew that a majority of people who were gonna see this movie had probably never heard of the original Tron before, so they had to make sure everything was understandable. But still, the movie has way too much exposition. It takes like 70% of the dialogue. Most of the conversations between the characters are literally made to tell the audience out loud what is happening at all times, and it gets a little distracting after a while. Maybe it's because I've seen this movie a million times and I already know what's happening, so it sticks out to me more, but either way, too much exposition. But the most frustrating thing about this movie is that the characters, while interesting and intriguing, all feel a bit underwritten. But the reason why it's so frustrating is that the movie does show these characters have depth and interesting stories to explore, but there's no time to truly take a look at any of it because the plot moves way too quickly. I'll explain. Let's take a look at the characters in the movie. Sam Flynn.
Well, it's because it was it's because it was meant to be the start of a new franchise, because they just wanted to hit the ground running, and then yeah, a decade goes by and now we're finally getting the third.
Now, to the people who criticize Tron Legacy, I'll give them a point here. I'll admit that Sam is not the most engaging protagonist. He's kind of bland. I honestly don't really like Garrett Hedlund in the role, and the movie doesn't really care about telling you anything about him. Aside from his elaborate prank on the Ancom Tower at the beginning, you don't really get to see what his life is like in the normal world. Like, what's his job? Why is he living in a garage? What does he like to eat? I don't know. Like, who are you, dude? It's very difficult to get attached to him as a character because you don't really know anything about him except for the fact that his daddy went missing. Sam is very much a character that is here to take you through the story. Most of his interactions with other characters are here so that he can receive exposition for the audience. So he's not that great, but he's also not awful. He has his moments, okay? When he's allowed to have vulnerable moments, he's actually really good. The scene where he sees his father again after 21 years and sees how old he's gotten and realizes that his father didn't abandon him but was stuck in the grid because Clue sabotaged him. All of that is really engaging and emotional. But again, the movie moves on from it way too quickly and we barely have any time to let it sink in. Also, Sam is kind of a survivor. You get the sense that he struggled a lot during his life, and it's shown in his ability to quickly adapt to situations he has no control over.
Now this I can do.
He cut the music out.
So yeah, at the end of the day, Sam is a bland character, but he does have interesting traits that would make him great if we had time to explore them, mainly when it comes to his relationship with his father. And speaking of which, Kevin Flynn. Kevin is a fascinating character. He has a head start over the others because of the first movie, but even discovering him in this one, you can tell how much potential there is in him. The conflict in this story mostly happens because he got cocky and overconfident when he was younger, and he allowed Clue to blindside him because of that. There's a lot of regret in him, and I absolutely love the fact that the world he created has become his own prison. It just kinda hammers in the point very hard. His character carries a lot of pain. The pain of failing at his mission, the pain of losing his creation, and most of all, the pain of having missed out on his son's entire life. Not being able to be a father to Sam is his biggest regret, and his father-daughter relationship with Cora is a great juxtaposition of that.
You're big.
Now, the original Tron film had none of this depth. None at all. I was truly befuddled and mesmerized by the level of overall quality that was infused into Tron Legacy, because the original film was, the original film was actually very iconic. And even though it wasn't as well received when it was released originally, and over time it grew in popularity, it still remains sort of a niche interest for most fans of, sci-fi or Disney films, stuff like that. A lot of people even forgot it was Disney. But Tron Legacy definitely wanted to make an impact and definitely left an impression on its audience. Whether you loved it or hated it, very similar to like Star Wars Episode 1. Phantom Menace was a very divisive film, and Tron Legacy, I would say, is right up there with that. But you may be one of the people that would love it.
Old.
Another aspect of his character that I love is his status in the grid. Because you see, despite the fact that he has been exiled by Clue, the programs see Kevin as their god. He created them, he is the maker. I love that moment in the club fight scene when Kevin arrives, and it's the first time in 20 plus years that programs actually see him, which is like hundreds of years in the grid because time doesn't work the same there. And they kneel in front of him and start praying. The idea is kind of crazy. Like, imagine God just showing up to the club. No lie, that'd be kinda cool. I also like that his final arc in this film is sort of left open-ended, and in a way that feels quite original, because the end of the film makes it appear like he died, but because of concepts introduced earlier in the film, it's implied that death in the grid for Kevin isn't necessarily the end. All in all, Kevin is a cool character with a lot of potential hidden in plain sight, and Jeff Bridges is just so good. He's just as good in the role here as he was in the original movie back in '82. Alright, moving on. Cora! Cora is, in my opinion, the most interesting character in Tron Legacy, but unfortunately, just like the other characters, she doesn't get a chance to explore her traits all that much. Cora is an ISO, a natural life form that was born inside of the grid. She's not a program, she was born, not created. We learned during the movie that the ISOs were the life-changing discovery that Flynn made before going missing. However, Clue betrayed Flynn and destroyed the ISO race in a grid genocide. Cora is the only one who survived, so she's a unique being, the last ISO say so. There is no other being like her in existence. So Kevin has been protecting her ever since, and they have been in hiding in the Outer Lands, where he raised Korra like his own daughter. Now I gotta say, Olivia Wilde is so good as Korra, and there's so much to explore with the character that she could get her own movie. I know I'm not teaching anything to anyone here, but Olivia Wilde is just a galaxy of talent on her own. Watch Booksmart, she directed it, and I promise you it's worth it. Korra is kind of a badass. She has some of the coolest scenes in the entire movie, but also she's kind of like a child sometimes, because she doesn't really know much about life. She was born in the grid, and her innocence is sort of poetic in a way, which I genuinely find lovely. She grew up reading philosophy books that belong to Kevin, and you learn that one of her biggest desires is to see what a sunrise looks like. There is no sun in the grid, it's always nighttime, and like I said earlier, the sky is this perpetual glitchy storm that never clears out. So Korra has no concept of what a blue sky and the sun look like, she's only read about it. And I love that the final shot of the movie is just a continuous shot of Korra watching her very first sunrise. It's really
So
beautiful.
good.
I also really appreciate that the movie doesn't force a romance between Korra and Sam. The story really doesn't call for one, and I think that's perfectly okay. They grow to care quite a bit for each other, but nothing suggests that it's romantic, and I'm totally okay with that. If anything, I like the idea of them being more like siblings. That said, the one thing that bugs me with the way Korra is handled is I hate that this movie gets a little too Hollywood with her at some point. Like, despite the fact that she's the most skilled fighter out of the three protagonists, she still ends up being a damsel in distress the guys need to go save in the third act. It's just kinda lame. But compared to things we've seen with female characters in other movies, that's a very minor complaint to have about her. Overall, if there's one thing I want to see more of in the Tron universe, it's Korra. The possibilities with her are endless. I would absolutely love to see Olivia Wilde return as the character. Next one, Clue.
I'm not your father, Sam.
Clue as a villain is very interesting in concept, but in execution, he's just kind of okay. He could have been so much more, but again, the writing doesn't fully allow for that. However, just like the other characters, there are seeds that are planted that suggest certain things for his character that are quite compelling. Clue has one or two scenes where he shows a bit of complexity, and it hints at him not being as much of a one-note, mustache-twirling villain as the rest of the movie makes him seem, but the scenes are very quick and it never really comes back for a payoff. You get the sense that despite his hatred and his darkness and his rage, there is still conflict in Clue. In his own fucked up way, he still has love for Kevin, and you get the sense that hurting him is not something he enjoys doing, but he's just completely lost in his mission and does whatever he deems necessary for success. In his final confrontation with Kevin, he doesn't do the normal Hollywood villain thing by immediately going for the kill or endlessly monologuing about his evil plan. He actually tries to reason with Kevin and implores him to try and understand his point of view because he doesn't want to have to hurt him.
I did everything! Everything you ever asked! I know you did. I executed the plan!
Yes, you saw it.
You promised that we would change the world together. You broke your promise.
There's also a moment later on where Kevin is at Clue's mercy and Clue has an opportunity to kill him on the spot, but he doesn't take it. He chooses not to kill him. And there's also a very tragic aspect to Clue that I think is often overlooked. And that's in the idea that despite how many bad things he does,
No, there's another reason for that. That I think it had something to do with the fact that if he killed Flynn, that he would in essence disapparate, no longer exist, and he wasn't willing to take that chance. I'm pretty sure.
None of it is really his fault. Clue is kind of a victim of his circumstances. He's a program. He was created by Kevin with only one goal, creating the perfect system. The problem is that Kevin didn't anticipate that Clue's idea of a perfect system would be binary. So Clue is doing exactly what he was created for. He doesn't have a choice. He was programmed to do so. He doesn't have the option of changing his mind. And that's a great battle of philosophies to have between Kevin and Clue. They both want the same thing, but they don't agree on what the definition of that thing is. It kind of reminds me of how Ultron was created by Tony Stark with for only goal to protect the world. But after learning about the history of the world, Ultron comes to the conclusion that the only way to protect the world is to eradicate humanity, because they're the problem. Kevin's vision of a perfect system is—
I think I've been bobbing my head to the score he chose for his video. I'm just sitting there like this the whole time. Great video.
Aimed at saving lives. But he has a human mind, so his vision of perfection fluctuates and has nuances. He was turning the grid into a world where diseases are eradicated, where humans can thrive without the natural weaknesses of humanity. But Clue was created with a goal that he interprets in a very literal way. His definition of a perfect system is quite literally a world where imperfections cannot exist. So the very concept of humanity is something he cannot tolerate, because it's flawed. So genocide is the only option he sees fit to create a perfect system. And that's why he exterminated the ISOs. Clue doesn't see himself as the villain, he genuinely believes that he's doing the right thing, that he's doing what he was born to do by getting rid of imperfect life forms, and he genuinely cannot understand why Kevin can't see that. From his point of view, Kevin is the one who betrayed him. Clue is an awesome character, but again, the movie doesn't really allow him to have his layers on full display, so it feels like we're missing out on a great villain here. These characters all have a lot of ground to come back and be fleshed out by other writers who give a fuck about character development and stuff. And also, I think we need to give a shout out to Michael Sheen, who plays a character named Zeus in the movie. I don't want to say too much about him, I think you need to discover him on your own. He's not in the movie a lot, but boy, his character is a blast. And he has a very mysterious backstory. You can tell Michael Sheen had so much fun playing this role. He goes all in with his performance. Michael Sheen is just excellent in everything he's in. Look, Tron has its weaknesses, and I think its biggest one is that the plot just moves way too quick, meaning a lot of important plot points just kind of fly by. The movie glosses over major reveals and twists, but in a way that feels kind of jarring. Like, one of the biggest twists in the film is this revelation that Rinsler is actually Tron, who we're supposed to believe has been murdered by Clue. The idea is that Tron no longer has control over his actions. He was reprogrammed by Clue to become his zombie lieutenant, Rinsler. That's like a massive plot point, but it's revealed in the most fleeting way ever, and then the movie just moves on. Like, it's so quick, it's a blink and you'll miss it type moment, and it shouldn't have been. And I firmly believe that these shortcomings are the reason why the movie was so misunderstood by critics. I think Tron Legacy is fucking amazing, and it sets the groundwork for great things in the future if handled properly. Because of the response from critics and the fact that the movie didn't make as much money as it could have, Disney has been really hesitant on making a sequel, but thank God they finally announced Tron Ares, which is set to come out on Disney Plus in 2022. It's probably one of my most anticipated movies right now, but I wonder what it's gonna be about. I don't think it's going to be a direct sequel to Legacy, because it was also announced that Jared Leto was cast in the main role, so unless he's playing Sam Flynn, he's gonna be a new character. But I hope they continue the story of Legacy. There's a lot to explore with it, and characters like Kevin Flynn and Tron himself have endings that were purposefully
This video actually dropped 4 years ago, so
left open-ended. And please bring back Olivia Wilde. I strongly recommend Tron Legacy. It's a good movie, not perfect, but it's still awesome. It's really entertaining. It's a very unique concept with so much potential for the future. I promise you'll have a good time watching it. Somebody build me a light cycle.
great video. That was here we go. Here's his channel, Friendly Space Ninja, and that video is 4 years old. Definitely give his channel a subscription and like that video. Great coverage, and I cannot wait for Tron Ares. I really hope it lives up to hype is not the word. I think it's not the word. I hope it lives up. That's all I'm gonna say. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one.